Shabbat Shalom. Good evening, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
And welcome tonight. This is a special Shabbat in many ways. Not only is it the first year anniversary of the tragedy of Pittsburgh that we're remembering tonight, we also are trying something new tonight. We're going to be introducing our new Siddur, which is Mishkan Tefilah. We're going to be piloting once a month on the fourth Friday evening of the month. And as we move through the Siddur, we're going to learn a little bit how to navigate this book. First of all, it opens from the back as you would do any Hebrew book, and Siddur Chadash does the same way. And for opening song, if you want to turn to page 7, for Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, the second one on the bottom.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
As you're moving through tonight's service, there are going to be also a few readings that are not in this Siddur, that are in honor of Pittsburgh. So at times you might not find a reading in the book, just to be aware. I would like to open our service up. We begin with prayers of gratitude for all that is holy in our life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, services, movement, song, but we need them. The prayer we sense our inner strength and purpose, our inner joy and capacity to love. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illuminate all of us, that bring that vision to life. Please turn to page 16 for Lecha Dodi as we welcome in the Shabbat bride.
So as we turn to page 16, one of the first things you may notice about Mishkan Tefilah is that some of the pages have what appears to be a border around the page, and you can see that on 16 and 17. What that usually means is that the prayer that begins on page 16 continues on page 17. When we get to another type of page layout, we will let you know. In this case, 16 and 17 are altogether part of Lecha Dodi.
The strength of the Siddur is that there's a variety of readings, so we can actually switch things up from week to week. Just in this case, Lecha Dodi is such a staple of every service, which is why there's no need to sprint it up over 2 pages. Hence, in this case, you have the border. Page 16, Lecha Dodi. Let's welcome in Shabbat bride.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala,
פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. On the left side, page 17, number 5. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Page number 9, please rise and face the door. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת
Let's be seated.
כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. About to light the Shabbat candles. Please join me in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר, להדליק נר של שבת. With this we turn to page 20 for Shalom Aleichem as we welcome in the Shabbat angels.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashalet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Barchuni LeShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Tzeitkhem LeShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. As we noticed, we're not doing everything in the book. For example, at this page, we have Shalom Aleichem on the right side, and we have a quote from the Torah talking about Jacob resting at night on the left side. This is an option the book is giving us. Instead of Shalom Aleichem, you might have picked the reading on the left-hand side. If you turn over to the next page, page 22, on the right side, you find the Chatzi Kaddish that sets the pacing between areas of the service. You might decide to do one service
the Kaddish here, or we might go to the left side for Landeni Elohai Barech Li Yitpalel, beautiful poem that also stresses the importance of prayer as we're entering into this. So what we're going to be doing as we move through the Siddur, we're going to be picking one of either side, one reading, one piece. So on the right side, you usually have the traditional prayer. On the left side, you have creative alternatives. So it's just you're wondering if you're not doing everything, that's the principle behind the book. Every time you have a double page that doesn't have the rim around it, we pick one from either side. In this case, we're going to go with page 22, Yit Gadal.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
וילמד יברך חירותי, וימלך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, וימרו.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה.
יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ויאמרו.
Amen. Please turn to page 24 and rise for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Please have a seat. Turn over to the next page. This time we're going to be doing a reading in lieu of Ma'ariva Avim, God, thanking God who makes the evening fall. We read a creative reading on the left side, on the top. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Haravi. Let's turn to the next page. This time we're doing Ahavat Olam on the right side. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל. To the next page.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להורות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
As you might have noticed, Shema, for example, takes up the space of two pages, but of course because it's such a central prayer. So in this case, of course, there's no choice between left and right. The next page that we're currently on, page 32, 33, you see the Ve'ahavta and the Leman Tizkeru. So in this case, you have a nice transition going from the opening paragraph to the closing paragraph. And we could have as well, might have chosen to read the English on the bottom right, which should have been a translation of the text above, the traditional prayer. Or we could have gone with the left side and done an English reading that's a creative one instead of the Ve'ahavta. So as we move through the book, we usually would not need page numbers for the most part of it. So as soon as we did a section, just turn the page over to the next side. I'm going to lead you and guide you as we're going through. So we would turn to page 34, 35 for the next reading in honor of the Remembrance Shabbat of Pittsburgh. I chose a different one that's not in the book. When evil darkens our world, let us be bearers of light. When fists are clenched in self-righteous rage, let our hands be open for the sake of peace. When injustice slams doors on the ill, the poor, the old, and the stranger, let us pry those doors open. Where shelter is lacking, let us be builders. Where food and clothing are needed, let us be providers. Where knowledge is denied, let us be champions of learning. When dissent is stifled, let our voices speak out truth to power. When the earth and its creatures are threatened, let us be their guardians. When bias, greed, and bigotry erode our country's values, Let us proclaim liberty throughout the land. In the places where no one acts like a human being, let us bring courage. Let us bring compassion. Let us bring humanity. Page 36.
Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. Turn to the next page. In this case, we're going to be doing the reading, or rather sing the reading, on the left side on the top. Let there be love.
So before we continue, let me just explain that when Mishkan Tefilah was originally piloted about 20 years ago, an entire genre of Jewish worship music sprang up based on some of the readings that were included in what became Mishkan Tefilah. This is one of those pieces, and it's written by a combination of a wonderful songwriter, Noah Aronson, and two cantors, Daniel Singer and Jody Suffren. Daniel Singer is down in New York City. Jody Suffren is up in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And the text comes as a combination of Hashkivenu and a poem written by an extraordinary rabbi liturgist, Chaim Stern.
Standing among us, let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. next page, to the top right. Vishamu, children of Israel shall keep Shabbat.
Vishamu
b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. All right, we finish up the beginning portion of the evening service. If you notice on the bottom of the page, you see for the Shabbat Tefilah, turn to pages 130 to 131. If you were to turn to the next page, you would see Shacharit Lechol Ule-Shabbat. This will be the morning opening prayers for the morning service. This book is pretty powerful. It packs a lot of punch, it packs a lot of different services in a very compact format. That's why we chose this edition of Mishkan Tefilah. But in order to make the Shabbat, keep this volume so tight, the Tefilah is being used several times. So we turn to page 131. And please rise as we're about to begin with the Amidah, the standing prayer, page 130.
a new melody, actually, a not quite new kavanah to enter the Amidah. This is something we used at this synagogue, at least these words, for several years. The words Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. You will learn the melody, and why? Because it is a call and response. So what you hear me sing, you and the choir are going to join together and sing that, and the words are right in front of you. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach,
Sifatai Tiftach,
Ufi Yagi, Tehilatecha, Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach,
Sifatai Tiftach,
Ufi Yagi, Tehilatecha, Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch
atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. Next page on the right. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. Next page on the right. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Everybody, please have a seat. As you notice, you're pretty much moving between each prayer, we're moving the page over and continue on. In this case, we decided to go with the traditional prayers. That's the way we used to it. They're always on the top right, and the translation of them, if you want to understand the English, is below. Usually we would automatically think, okay, move on to the next page for the next prayer. If you turn one page, it's 138, 139. You may notice Kedusha for Shabbat morning. So this Amidah combines both Amidot, depending on which time of day we choose one or the other. So in this case, we're skipping, and we're turning all the way over to page 142, the next rubric. On the left side, on the top. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope. For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories, glowing even in darkness. For Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Turn the page. On the left side, on the top. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yanavot. Turn one more page, and we give thanks for Modim, page 146 on the top. Modim אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אמותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לטובתו, לטובתו. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לטובתו, לטובתו. מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אמותינו לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. On the bottom of the page. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך לחנאי להודות. Before we move on to the next prayer, just to notice, all the prayers that are in Hebrew in this Siddur are transliterated. Modim is one of those sections that didn't have a transliteration, for example. You should have been able to follow along with everything that's going on in the Hebrew. So we're moving on to the next prayer. Turn the page, turn to the right side. Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. The Birkat Shalom, the blessing of peace. We have said the last blessing that's part of the Amidah. If you turn one page over to page 150, you would see Birkat Shalom for the morning. Again, this is the alternative version if this were a morning service. We're not doing this. If you want to turn to page 152, one page further, there's some readings, some prayers that you might use as you're moving into a moment of silent meditation for the prayers of our heart. 152 in the middle. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. These iconic words open up the book of Genesis, one of the most iconic portions of the entire Torah, as we start over our annual reading cycle this week, this Shabbat, from the very beginning again. Where very often the focus of this Torah portion is put on the story of creation, as well as the exploits Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, we often gloss over what happens in the second part of the portion, and that is the tragedy of Cain and Abel. There are many questions that remain open with the story. How come God preferred the sacrifice of Abel to the sacrifice of Cain? Why did Cain kill Abel? Where were the parents when all this was going on? And why did Eve eat the forbidden fruit? And what would the world look like if she hadn't? But then also, it's not only about Eve. How come Adam let his wife eat from that fruit? Why didn't he stop her? And also we might ask, what was life like for those two when they began over east of Eden after they were expelled from the garden? What we know is that for some reason, God chose the sacrifice of Abel over the sacrifice of Cain. We know that Cain was also very upset. One day, those two brothers are out in the field, and Cain rises up to kill his brother Abel. We know that God appeared to Cain soon afterwards and asks him, "Where's your brother Abel?" To which we remember Cain's iconic answer, "What should I know? Am I my brother's keeper?" When we read a lot about Cain and Abel, there's something, or rather someone, missing in the whole story. Where's Adam? His two children are fighting with each other, and he doesn't get involved. As a parent, it would have been his job to break up their fight, to referee their quarrel, to make peace between them, to be there for his children, cheer them up when they're feeling low, to teach them what they need in order to learn self-control. So where's Adam when his children needed him the most? Adam was depressed. He was in great grief after he got expelled from the garden. And so, as many people who are depressed do, Adam withdrew into himself. He lost complete interest in the world around him. His life reached a standstill. He's not there for his children because he's numb, paralyzed. He's not even there for his wife either. But before we get judgy, Adam is not a negligent or non-caring father. He's somebody who suffered a tremendous loss. He had been expelled from the ideal world in which he once lived. He's in a really bad place. It should deserve our empathy. He literally just lost paradise, the world in which you never need to work, the place where God is accessible all around, the place where all the animal world obeys you, the world where any and every food you want, with the exception of this one fruit, of course, is right there for the taking. And so Adam suffers terribly. When a person suffers from depression, they lose interest in the present, and even more, lose interest in the future. And they only dwell on the past, things that had happened. This is exactly what's going on with Adam here. He lost his interest in life. He remains fixated on what life had been in the garden, and how hard it was to adjust to being expelled from there. So he has no energy at all to relate to his children or to anything else. If you look at Adam this way, then his absence, his lack of involvement in the lives of his children, becomes a lot more understandable. We have no account in the Torah what actually happens. Is there any further interaction between Adam and his son Cain following the infamous murder of his brother Abel? Cain is being sent into exile as a ceaseless wanderer on the earth. The only information given on his final whereabouts is as follows. And Cain left the presence of God and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now, where have you heard that phrase before, east of Eden? Those are the exact same words that are being used in reference to Adam. After he was expelled to the garden, Adam began life over east of Eden. This is where the rabbis of the Midrash make a connection. Adam lived east of Eden. Cain went east of Eden. Following this logic, they must have met there. The Midrash now pictures the two of them, the father who had been absent from his son's life, and the son who's gotten into trouble on his own. And they sit down and have a conversation. According to the Midrash, it is actually Cain who helps out his father out of his depression by teaching him. Now, wait a minute. Something doesn't sound right here. There's something to learn from Cain. Also, what are we making of this whole role reversal here? The son teaching the father? According to the Midrash, Cain manages to lift his father up and help him recover from his depression by teaching him to live in the present, and to care about the future, and not only wallow in the past. So how does he do that? How does Cain teach Abel? Or rather, Cain teach Adam, his father? By example. Cain does two things that his father has never done. First, he builds a city. To build shows that you care about the future. Also, Cain was condemned to be a wanderer. That was God's verdict on him. So how come he builds a city? The text actually doesn't say if he ever lived in that city or not, but he still builds that city. And the second part is even more remarkable. He names the city not after himself, but after his son. He called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. This is the very same Cain who once denied he was his brother's keeper. He now insists on being his son's guardian. Cain models for his father the act of fathering itself. He shows Adam how to be a father, something Adam had never really done until then. But how do we know it worked? How do we know that Adam recovered from his depression, left the past behind, and began to live in the present and look out for the future? At the end of this chapter, we read, after father and son said their goodbyes to each other, gone their separate ways, Vayeda Adam od et ishto vateled ben. Adam made love to his wife one another time, and she gave birth to a child. Adam and Eve, who've seen so much tragedy with their first two children, risk and dare to bring another child into the world. But they still carry the loss of the first two children with them. The one who got killed, the one who got exiled. You can tell as they mention these two children in the same breath in which they name their new child. They will call this child Seth, which means a gift, because God has given us him as a gift in place of Abel, whom Cain killed. If it were not for the fact that Adam and Eve began over again, who and what would we, all humanity, be? Because now we are all descendants of Seth. The Torah teaches us Adam and Eve are the model for all those who love and lose and have the courage to love again. They're model for all those who are able to get up from their knees after a crippling blow and start over again. All of us have lost before or will experience loss at some point in our lives. On this Shabbat in particular, remember the victims of the horrible shooting that took place at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh 1 year ago. It's only all too natural for us to react the way Adam did, retreating into ourselves, sinking into depression, to close our eyes and hearts and focus only on the pain, on what once was, the loss of innocence, of feeling safe and secure, a paradise lost. Like the Garden of Eden, the access to the Tree of Life is now barred forever. Many have asked how we can react in the aftermath of tragedies like this. And I think that this week's Torah portion can offer us a model for that. While the past will always remain and be a part of us, we still need to remind ourselves, like Adam in the Parsha, to also keep our eyes and minds open for the present and the future. Preparing and rebuilding in the present, constructing and planning for the future of our children, thus play key roles in our lives. May we find the strength to continue to look forward so that we may become true partners with God. Who day by day renews the work of creation. Shabbat Shalom. Let's now take a moment to think of those who need of healing of body, mind, and soul. If there's anybody of whom you're thinking at this time, season of the year, please feel free to share their names out loud or in your hearts. Before we recite Mishe Berach, I would like to share a reading. It's labeled Tree of Life. It's written by Ellen Solovi, the great liturgist of the Reform movement, in memory. Tree of Life, revive our souls, enrich our days, entreating your blessings. O God of peace, fill our hearts with comfort, letting your Torah shine in the fullness of our love. Faith in you, our God, eternal source of blessings. Praying for healing in the depth of despair, thanking God for the survivors, thanking God for the first responders, sorrow crushing our hearts, bereaved beyond belief, united in our love, turning to you in faith, God of Israel, healer of generations. Tree of Life, Redeemer of Israel, and live in this moment with healing, and live in this moment with hope. O Rock of Israel, forget not the Jews of Pittsburgh. Let your love flow in the days ahead for justice and peace everlasting. In your Siddur, please turn to page 175 on the top for Mishe Berach, or prayer for healing. 175.
Mishe Berach
of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu, as those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
This is also a time in our service when we invite those who have had wonderful things that have happened during the past week, things to celebrate, to share those celebrations with us so that we can be a community of joy together. So does anybody have anything really wonderful that happened during the past week? Yes, Steve.
Wow.
Oh,
Wonderful. Yasha Koach, that's wonderful.
that
That's
is
great.
beautiful. Thank you. Oh, yes?
Ooh, Mazel Tov. Awesome, that's great. Yes. Or Barbara. Wonderful. That's
Yay.
awesome. Yes.
Our future son-in-law Boris just
Ooh, wonderful.
Yay.
It's been a good week. That's wonderful. Awesome.
This is
Yes.
terrific.
Hmm?
Very nice. Anyone else? All right, your job this week. Go out and make something really wonderful happen this week and bring it back next Shabbat evening. That's your job.
Speaking of good stuff happening, do we have some announcements from a board member? Thank you, Rhoda.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
We have a few upcoming events. Sunday's supposed to be blessed with the animals, but
Let's see how blessed the weather's going to be. You know,
Right.
yeah.
permitting, that's at 11 o'clock. Caravan of Faith is this coming Monday at 7 o'clock. Bar mitzvah of Jonah Gale on November 2nd. And Gale's Jewish Acapella group, that is coming on Saturday, November 16th. It is going to be a wonderful evening, wine and cheese and appetizers will go on hand. Served afterwards, so please get your tickets online. Use the website.
All right. Thank you, Rhoda. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's other events coming up. The Caravan of Faith, by the way, is open for all those who would like to check out and see what the other our neighbors, our religious communities are like. There's some flyers in the back and also downstairs. You get a chance to see a mosque, see a church, see the Hindu community, the Buddhist community. So part of that is also Kent and I will be hosting guests, those who are part of this for Caravan of Faith here. You guys might know a little bit about Judaism, so that might be not the one event, but please feel free to check this out to show your support of the community. The same goes also for the McGavitt concert. Should be a wonderful experience as well. There's flyers around as well. All right, okay. A lot of good stuff going on. So with this, we start to do our closing prayers. They're all on the back of the book, so they only happen in the book once, but they're on the back. It's page 186. 186. On the right side on the top, you find the traditional version of Aleinu. Please rise as you're able, as about to open the ark. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גאולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. The next page, right side in the middle. המה והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. Please have a seat. As we move into the Kaddish section, there's some readings that I would like to share. We stand as one on this night of remembrance, united in grief, united in loss, united in the power of a promise. God has made us, God will sustain us. We give praise to this life and rise in the moment to renew our strength. In our community, we remember this week the yahrzeits of Thelma Bohr, Joseph Grossman, Sarah Groskay, Mark Hyams, Bessie Noe, Howard Rocklin, Rose Rolnick, Joseph Rosenblum, and Rose Sidney. There's a prayer, again by Eldon Zalovi, that I would like to share with you, commemorating the victims of Pittsburgh. Author of life, man has turned violent, cutting down innocence, crushing lives, upending dreams, attacking hope with hatred. Source and Creator, grant a perfect rest under your tabernacle of peace to the victims of murder in Pittsburgh. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mellinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Silent Simon, Daniel Steen, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger, whose lives were cut off by violence, an act of witless aggression and calculated anti-Semitism. Remember the survivors of the horror and the victims of any violence, suffering, and despair. Grant them shelter and solace, comfort and consolation, blessing and renewal. Grant them endurance to survive, strength to rebuild, faith to mourn, and courage to heal, devotion to one another. For the sake of our people and for the sake of your holy name, grant the Jews of this country and the whole world your protection, your wholeness of healing, and your peace. The Mourner's Kaddish, this book here you can find on page 193. Mourners, please rise. Let's everybody rise together as we mourn Pittsburgh as a community. Today is a special occasion. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemer Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Hirotei, V'yamlich Malchotei, B'chayechon u'v'yom echon, u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemer Rabbah mevarach, Le'olam olamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimaru. Amen. Zichronam levracha. May the memory be a blessing. Please have a seat. All right, we're about to do Kiddush and Motzi. If you want to follow along in the book, if you want to see how the text looks like in this one here, it's on page 202. It's the right side for the Kiddush. Oh, here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom tefilah lemikraei kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim.
And the Motzi, page 204, if you're so inclined. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. All right.
All right. Could we get a strong person, or not so strong, to take the challah and put it in the back under the window? Who would like to do that?
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So everybody please feel free to pick up a slice of challah.
It's
There you
going to go
Thanks.
right at the window.
Under the window there, so
Under
people
the
can pick
window
it up.
right
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Speaking of the thank yous, thank you for the UGC choir for being here tonight, supporting Kent and me up here on the beamer. Good to have you guys. And yeah, we're going to be having our Oneg Shabbat in the Rostic Social Hall afterwards, so please feel free to join us for that. And we close the way we came in. You can find it on page 7, the second one on the bottom. Ma'ya Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, my mistake. On page 152.
It's all good. Page 7. Ma'ya Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma'ya Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Everybody, Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat.